worst case scenario, to kill you.
Right. It's funny. I again, years ago, I'm working out at a gym. It was a big gym, and I saw three guys that I know and you know. I'm not going to mention names. Two of them were absolutely, two of them were criminals.
Yep.
One of them might have been a criminal.
In training.
Well, let's put it this way. He was in their peer group, but you and I had talked about him, and you weren't certain that he was a violent criminal, but you thought maybe he was involved in some of the lesser stuff. But these three guys, and they're all big guys. Yep. And they're lifting big amounts of weight. And I just had the feeling, there's a couple of things I thought of. One is I thought of The Sopranos, although they weren't Italian. They weren't all Italian.
They're Irish.
Maybe. But I thought to myself, these guys are here in the middle of the day. So, I mean, I knew I was there because I had an afternoon and night shift. And so I just found it, I just found it interesting because I kind of, in my head, I imagined that these guys pretty much for all I know, they had just gotten off of a construction job, or they were just going to work the night shift.
Well, the point you're trying to make is criminals, they work out because they fight. They work out because they got to be in shape if they're gonna strong arm people, if they're gonna collect money, if they're gonna intimidate. Absolutely.
And then and the rest of the days would be spent hanging around, thinking about how they were going to make some money.
Absolutely. Yeah. Good assessment.
Oh, good. Maybe I should have been a cop.
How about panic and fear? What do you think? What emotion is going to be best for you, panic or fear?
Oh, listen, fear is your friend. Panic is your enemy.
Absolutely, because fear is your natural instinct, kind of giving you that adrenaline rush, and you're focused, you're stronger, you can see better, and you're more alert to your surroundings. It's that fear that's going to keep you out of trouble. When you panic, if you panic, kind of like the deer in the headlights look. If someone, you walk out of your house and someone, boom, pulls a knife on you, and you panic and you freeze. Or if you see someone stealing your car and you decided to jump on the car and wrestle the car away from the guy, and then the guy drags you down the street, you kind of locked into something and you panicked and you did the wrong thing. Right. And that panic is what gets most people killed. Now, how cops deal with the panic and fear, because we go from 0 to 100. Yeah. You'd be sitting in your cruiser, boom, you get a call, home invasion, person choking, whatever, active shooter, whatever the situation is. If you panic as a cop, you're going to screw the whole thing up. So we visualize how would I react as a cop if I got called to a pharmacy for an armed robbery? How would I react to a domestic situation for a guy with a knife or a gun? If you visualize in your head, you kind of rehearse how you would do things. Visualize what you would do, Dave, if you walked out of a comedy club and there was a couple of punks out there looking to take all your money. Mm-hmm. How would you react? Would you just give it to them, or would you fight them? Right. And if you visualize and you prepare in your mind prior to, more likely than not, you're going to do the right thing under pressure. Because under pressure, if you've never visualized, you'll always do the wrong thing. You'll always make the mistake. And once you make the mistake, once you act, it's very difficult to pull back and change your reaction. And you're not talking about, as I'm walking out the door, I'm thinking, what would happen when I go through this door? You can do that, but you want to visualize beforehand. Beforehand, like when? Like now? Like right now. Like you would just know. You would just know in your life what you know in your life. If there's 4 or 5 things you do during the day, if you go to the gym in the morning, or if you go to the coffee shop and you go shopping, and you go, to pick up your dry cleaning, and go pick your daughter up in school, visualize, what would I do if I picked my daughter up and there was an irate parent out in front with a knife? How would I call 911? Would I take off and leave my daughter there with her little, Fred Flintstone backpack, yelling and screaming for her dad? How would you react if I'm in the gym and there's a guy out of his mind on steroids, throwing weights around? And how would I react? You have to put yourself in that situation prior to. And I know a guy he was in the SEALs, and he's in some sort of government security now. And it's really interesting because he comes in, he sits down at a restaurant or in a room, and he doesn't say, I know where all the exits are, but he knows where all the exits are. Yep. He knows where the best place for an attack to come in would be. He knows how to counter that. People in law enforcement, people in the military,
Do you do that?
I still do it.
You do that.
I'm doing it right now. I'm looking at you. I'm saying, what if Rattigan decides to snap on me? What's the easiest way to get out of my house?
Excellent possibility. Excellent possibility. Oddly enough, I was just thinking about how would I attack him most effectively.
Yeah, I think it's just so ingrained in you. You just do it instinctively. And it's just, and hopefully you never have to use it. But if you do have to use it, hopefully you're going to react correctly. And if you can diffuse a situation, if you can save yourself, save your loved ones, that's why you do it. It's unfortunate you have to do it. We're playing a game of chess. You got normal people playing this game of chess with all the idiots that are out there. It's bizarre. Why do you even have to do that?
Well, it's funny. I went to see Frozen with my daughter when she was younger. And this was after the shooting, the movie theater shooting. And there's something came up, and it was a friendly little, if anything crazy happens, you want to get down on your feet and you want to crawl to the exit or something like that. And I remember thinking there was this nice little friendly message for children on this is what happens if people go wild. And by the way, just in case you're wondering, I would throw the pen over against that wall, knock some things off that wall with a pen. That would get your attention over there. Me, and then I would basically pick up this microphone stand and just whip it at your head. So that was what I decided. Anyway, moving on.
One thing about when you talk about workplace violence, active shooters, a lot of times you focus on just your workplace. So you say to yourself, okay, I work at the mall and I work from 10 to 6 at night. So that's my workplace. So I focus only the mall. Well, that's great because it is your workplace. And if something's going to happen at your workplace, you want to be focused there. But guess what? When you leave your workplace and you go into Starbucks, are you entering someone else's workplace? Do you not know? Or do you know that there could be some sort of a domestic situation brewing in Starbucks and you're walking in to get a coffee at 9 in the morning and you get some, crazy barista back there fighting with his ex-girlfriend or ex-boyfriend and someone pulls a knife? There was an incident at a mall in Danvers, Mass at Chinese restaurant where some deranged employee went in there and stabbed the cook in the head and killed him.
Oof.
A few years ago.
Wow. I didn't know about that one.
Yeah, I forget the name of the restaurant. I think it was P.F. Chang's.
Really?
Absolutely.
That was Peabody.
Okay. Yeah. Peabody, they're all the same, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you're a patron going in there, you're in someone else's workplace. You go to the gym, that's someone else's workplace.
Right.
You go to the movie theater, that's someone else's workplace. So in reality, you're always going into different workplaces. So you got to be alert 24 hours a day, baby. There's no rest.
Well, I was. I mean, when I worked for the newspaper, when I worked as a newspaper reporter, I was aware of where the exits were. I was aware that you wouldn't necessarily get shooters coming in, but you would get irate people.
Oh, because you do a bad story, Dave.
I did a story on the strongest man in the world from where was he from? At that time, he was from Saugus. And then there was another guy who claimed to be the strongest man in the world who was up from Alabama, and he showed up at the front.
Oh, really? Looking for you.
He was looking for me. And one of the other reporters came up and and I was putting I was filling in as an editor that day. And this guy had seen my story and he had come to visit, and this other reporter intercepted him before he got to me. The other reporter decided, hey, this is a great story. and of course,
let's get some pictures of Rattigan getting beat down in the hallway.
He said to me, he goes, hey, the world's strongest man is here. Whatever. This guy says he's the world's strongest man. He's looking for you. And I go, and I said, I'm putting the paper out, but I'm thinking, what's going what does he want? And so my buddy, basically Dave Rattigan, wound up writing the story, and it was a good story. And it was I'm sure the guy was coming in for publicity, but he was big.
Oh yeah,
he was a big dude.
Guy. Absolutely.
So, but yeah, I was always aware of this stuff, and I've seen enough TV that I always see the black, the people in the black uniforms and the Uzis showing up, and I know it's not going to probably be like that when it happens. It's probably going to be a guy with mental health issues or something.
Yep.
But yeah, I go through this pretty much wherever I go, and it's just kind of left over from newspapers.
There you go.
But who would know that it would be? And I'm always in fear. I'm in fear right now. I'm in fear. I live in fear, and this is not. this is totally unimportant, except to me.
Oh, what's that?
Fear. People always think that being brave is about not feeling fear, and it's not. Being brave is to face your fear and overcome your fear.
To control your fear and not allow it to morph into panic.
Right. In this case, not to allow it to. Right. A person who's never feels fear, that person concerns me too.
Yeah, because they're very dangerous. Yeah, if you use boxing as an analogy,
yep.
Those fighters who say I'm not afraid to get hit, they're punch drunk after about 10 fights because they'll just walk right at you and take 50 shots to land one.
Right.
Great fighters will always say, "Oh, I'm afraid to get hit. I don't want to get hit.
Yeah.
I don't want to get. I mean, it's a part of the game. But
yeah.
I don't want to get hit. It hurts to get hit.
Right.
You have to kind of outsmart your opponent. You have to use that fear to outsmart the situation and put yourself in a better tactical situation.
Yeah, yeah. And it's anyway. So fear is your friend. Fear will make you quicker.
Absolutely.
Baseball analogy. I heard somebody say this years ago. They said the reason, at a basic level, there is a belief among every decent baseball player that if the ball is suddenly headed to his face at like 100 miles an hour, his hands will be quick enough to get to catch the ball before it hits him in the face. And I think the same. I think when I heard it, it was explained. They were talking about both the face and another sensitive area of the body. But having to do with the fact that your hand would be quicker. And I knew when I played goalie, whenever I forgot my cup, my glove was a lot quicker.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Covering. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, so there's some behaviors that you might want to avoid or you want to be aware of in certain situations. And the first one is, in any situation, and we have that in law enforcement, when you have a hot situation, when you have a person who's irate, they're pissed off, they're confrontational, you want to send your best person in there. You want to have that person who, in law enforcement, we call it verbal judo. You want to be able to de-escalate a bad situation. You want to be able to de-escalate an irate person. If I'm walking out of my house and someone recognized me as a cop and they said something to me, my verbal judo would be two options. I can tell them to fuck off, and that's going to escalate the situation, or I can try to de-escalate and pacify the situation. That's the same thing with when you're dealing with any type of violent crime, any type of situation where you have to talk your way out of a situation. And what we recommend to people is, if people have ever said to you, "Hey, you know something, Dave? You're really good at calming people. You're a very good de-escalator." If they've said that to you, then you're the go-to guy. Mm-hmm. If you're at a comedy show and there's 3 or 4 comics and someone's acting up, then hopefully Rattigan's going to go over there and de-escalate it in comparison to another comedian who might escalate it. I don't know if you have any in mind, but who might escalate the situation. So you have to know going in that that's who you are. You're a person who can de-escalate situations. But in an active shooter situation, you're not going to walk up to the shooter and say, hey, come on, put the gun down. It doesn't work that way. I'm talking situations where, like, the strongest man in the world came in. Right. You had a good guy at the desk, and he de-escalated it and kind of didn't make the situation any worse. Never make it worse. Try to keep it at a level where it doesn't get worse.
It's funny because this guy that I'm talking about, Dave Rattigan, very good with people. Very good with people. And I'll tell you the other example that I think of always when you're talking about de-escalator is, you're in a bar, you're younger, you're in a bar, all of a sudden there's a beef between somebody in your group and somebody in another group who you don't know. And really at the root of it is that somebody was an idiot and somebody was an idiot. And so you need somebody to step in.
Is there a guy that can make it, less volatile? Is there a guy in that group, or is there a person in that bar that can do it? Kind of the mediator.
Are you going to walk up in between? First of all, you got to think: are you going to walk up between them and take a shot at getting punched in the face?
Turn on you. Both of them turn on you.
Yeah. Or are you going to and if you get in there and you get between them, do you shove the other guy, or do you just get in between them and try to calm it? And I think everybody's got that. Well, maybe not everybody, because obviously, but a lot of us have those people who will, in our group that will kind of calm things down.
Absolutely.
But you can't do that in an active shooter situation.
No, once the person is focused on what they're doing. Once they get out of their car and they walk into wherever they're going into, a Dunkin' Donuts, a McDonald's, their office building, the post office, wherever they're going, and the shots rang out or they have a gun and they're focused, they're done.
All right, so you're saying